manager's been saying his piece about what Danny Murphy had to say last week. What are your thoughts?
I think everyone's entitled to their opinion, but when it's personally directed at you or your teammates, I think it's disappointing. We're all disappointed at what he's got to say. It's a little bit disrespectful to aim at us in particular, mainly because it had no relevance. We weren't playing against them that weekend, or he wasn't talking about a game that was coming up against another one of the teams that were involved, and it's detrimental to us and our team.
How does it make you feel when one professional in his position says those sort of things about other professionals?
It's disappointing to criticise you as professional players and what you stand for, and the way you play football matches is disappointing.
And in particular, to use the word brainless as well, that must have really...
Yeah, it is. You know, to criticise another professional as a bunch of players like we are. You know, we've got a lot of talented players. There's a lot of good footballers, and to say it's just brainless, I think it's very, very disrespectful to the club and to the players as well.
Were you angry? Were you surprised? Were you
surprised more than anything? Because, as I say, there was no relevance to it. There was no reason for him to say those things.
And do you disagree with the idea that he fundamentally said that it's managers that effectively get players so hyped up that these kind of things sometimes happen?
No, I don't think so, because our manager doesn't do that. I think we've got a very, very good manager, a very tactically aware manager. We set out with a game plan to play against teams, sometimes to break oppositions down, sometimes to limit what they can do to us. We've got a very, very clever manager who spends 2 or 3 days leading up to a game working on the tactics of how we're going to beat or achieve a result against the other team. And to say that against a manager of our quality is very, very disrespectful to him.
And the fact that the statistics are here that have been put in front of us shows you've got a decent disciplinary record. Does that make it even more strange? Do you think that there is this negative perception that some people sometimes...
The negative perception is strange. I mean, we've only had 1 player sent off in the last calendar year. I mean, not just the football year, the calendar year we had 1 player sent off. And I think our yellow cards and red cards count last season, when we actually finished 10th in the Premiership, was lower than, you know, when the previous manager was in charge and the team finished 10th in the Premiership. So I think if you look at the actual statistics of our disciplinary record, there's no foundation to the comments whatsoever.
Do you think this issue in many ways has kind of been highlighted because there has been some tackles recently which have been viewed as particularly reckless, nothing to do with yourselves obviously, but in other teams, and the fact that there is so much media coverage on the Premier League these days, it does highlight these things? Yeah,
there's a massive media attention on the league, and the tackling at the moment is this week's thing, and somebody's made a few comments about tackling and that, so everybody's jumped on it, as the media do in this country. But you know, next week somebody else will say something, and this side of it will be forgotten about.
In that sense, will it affect you or any of the other lads, do you think, in the way you approach games in future, because obviously people will now be perhaps even looking at you even more?
Yeah, it's brought us into the spotlight at the moment, and the way, you know, we play in our disciplinary record. So if somebody gets sent off, or we get a lot of bookings this weekend, then it'll be a problem, obviously. But it certainly won't alter the way we approach games, and it certainly won't alter the way we approach our game on Sunday. I'm sure we're preparing for that now, and there's been no change in our approach to playing Sunderland as any other game.